Hey y'all, it's me Tiffany and welcome back to my channel. This is the first time you're here. I do a mix of novels, graphic novels, manga, occasionally a book or television show, just not as often. So if you're not new here, you know I've made a big deal about Trials of the Amazons and Nubia. You know, I talked about the reading order, how I was going to handle it, and then I got into a reading slump. I bought all 7 of these and just got around to reading them because I went ahead and just picked them up just out of simplicity's sake, because sometimes they're harder to find if you wait too long. And I wanted the physical copies because I own the other like 5 of Nubia and I really liked it. I meant to read Wonder Girl before starting this. I have not, so the only things I know about her are what's in this. I picked up Nubia, Queen of the Amazons, that at the time of me recording this had just come out. So only one's out at that time. So yeah, I'm definitely invested. I did enjoy this when I read it. Before I get into it, I read the first 2, which the second one is Nubia number 6. And I was in such a reading slump. I couldn't really remember what I read, not because it was bad, just one of those days. And now that I read all of it, I decided I can't read the other Nubia until I make this video because I don't know if that's going to influence my opinion on all these. If not, so the rundown is basically Nubia discusses the events that's going on, Diana returns, and then 2 sectors of different Amazons come in because they decide they're going to try to figure out who's going to be the guardian for Doom's doorway. Nubia tries to be the peacemaker between all of this, and there was a very big death that happened in this. So yeah, like that basically shakes up everybody, including our queen. So I want to discuss how I feel about this one. I think it's an interesting beginning, especially with the death. And you know, the mascara always seems as like a haven for women, especially like the women who come there after they die at the hands of a man. And I think it's interesting because I think this comic has a good way to discuss like basically intersectional feminism, because each group has different feelings about each other and within themselves, and they do have histories of discriminating against each other, and you can discuss that with intersectional feminism, and I think it handles things very well when it comes to that discussion. The art was okay. I like the art in Nubia better, but to talk about Nubia, I went to open it up. You know, she looks beautiful. I just love that character a lot. But the artwork is fine. Here's another one. Like, the coloring's good. Like, I have no actual complaints. Not the biggest fan of the cover art, though. So, Nubia number 6. So this one opens up with the funeral, and they've got to discuss, like, is this competition actually important enough to continue? And Diana's got to basically make the decisions for everything. So I think the way this issue opens up, I think you should read this. You should read this one beforehand. But I think a reader could just jump into this one. But, you know, at the same time, for continuity, I think Williams is a really good writer. And how she handles things, like every character, even the ones who haven't been in her series before, and the artwork, great as ever. I know this is a quick rundown of just like everything, but I was trying to think about how do I talk about the series as a whole, or do I talk about like the individual things. The characters look absolutely gorgeous in this. Every character so far in both of these have felt like real characters, and that is really nice. So they decide the trial must continue. The Doom's doorway needs a guardian, and there was bloodshed at Doom's doorway. This also is interesting because you also see like things at the end where Diana's training as a child. Every character still feels legit, and Diana is trying to figure out the best way for the champion to be chose and figure out who the killer is. So that's an interesting concept. So one thing I will say is I think this issue felt more balanced than the other 2. I think the emotional aspect and the seriousness of everything that's going on, and then just like the characters felt more balanced. But this is just my opinion. The artwork is fine. But I like the artwork in the other 2 better. Like, I don't know if it's like the coloring or just the drawing, but something about it just made me go like, I think I just like the other ones more. But I do think the character designs are great in this as well. So it's interesting that there's like more depth. So as I stated, I have not read Wonder Girl, so I'm not sure if there was some stuff that I'm just missing from not reading this. I did enjoy this, and I thought the concept of why are we worrying about these pantheonic gods when we claim our own power, so why are we worried about them, was an interesting conversation and an interesting thing. She doesn't feel like the mascara feels right. So more people died in this, and Yara's nation of Amazons were attacked by a boar. That should not be a big deal, but just because of where they're at, the only place the boar could have came from was Doom's doorway. So they're like, are we getting set up? And then like somebody really important died, and that was part of this nation of Amazon. So it was interesting. Like she knew something didn't feel right, and then this happened. So it just makes you wonder. And the artwork in this is beautiful as always, and I like seeing the more, like, I guess like a different culture of an idea to the Amazons. That's the boar, you know, just beautiful. Like all of it's just beautiful, and it's just interesting to see a different look at how like Amazons would look somewhere else. And this is set, her tribe is set in South America, so actually where the Amazon is at. So that's, I don't know, to me that just, I just like the fact that there is a sector in South America where the actual Amazon is at. But see, this is the same author though that I believe did, okay, so this is the same author that did do Wonder Girl. So I am curious to go pick it up. I was curious anyways, but the way everything was written and the atmosphere and just how the characters are and the way things are written, it definitely makes me want to go back, and I want to see more of the cultural aspect that's in Wonder Girl, especially because, you know, it's a different part of the world. So, and everything is absolutely gorgeous. All right, so it's number 5, and the trial finally started, you know, with everything going on, they just get distracted, and, you know, I mean, it's just a lot going on to be worried about this trial, but they need a guardian for this doorway. So it's interesting that 5 of the 7 is where it starts. So I'm wondering, because I know Dark Crisis has started and a lot of the Justice League died in that series. I'm wondering how this is going to be involved in that, because Yara is on one of the alternate covers for that one. So I'm very tempted to read that. I don't usually delve this much into DC miniseries and crossovers, but I am curious. It's like, how is all of this going to affect the rest of the, you know, DC universe? And, you know, this is the first Wonder Woman crossover in such a long time, so I feel like hopefully there's some more significance than just this. And I think the way all this sets up is, I think Diana's world is getting more fresh air. We're learning more about it. Makes me want to learn more about Wonder Woman herself, even though she's probably a smaller part than all of this. Well, obviously this is her book, so she shows up a little bit more, and there's the other one, but there's so much than just Diana and how she's navigating through everything. So it's interesting. One thing I will say is interesting too, they do more like flashback stuff in this, and like the artwork's very different for the flashback. At first I was like, what is this? And I think it's just to know you went back in time. It's cutesy. It kind of has that webtoon style. I like this a lot, but I do think this is probably my least favorite out of the 5 that are mentioned. Probably out of all of them, this is my least favorite, to be honest. So Cassie is a bigger role in this, and she's a champion. She thinks she knows who the murderer is, and then Diana is like in the heart of the island, and things collapse around her. And it's just like a big mess of what's going on and what's going to happen, because this is number 6. Everything's going to wrap up in the next one. The only thing that sucks though is the murderer has a mask on, so they can't see, or she can't see like who the murderer is, despite having a big idea who the murderer is. So I will say this, the killer does get revealed, and it kind of feels like an afterthought. You can kind of tell that this had 3 creative teams so far. I think this event's kind of odd. I don't hate it. I enjoyed it. I want to read more, but I think it's odd, and I just feel like you can definitely tell the creative team maybe didn't communicate as much as they did, and like, because the killer should not have felt like an afterthought if they spend more time worried about the killer than the actual trial. That's just my opinion. That's one of my big critiques. And, you know, I also think it's strange that the killer, you know, the main killer is not the main villain, and so she basically has to help with the main villain. So it's just kind of, I'm not sure how I feel on it at this moment. Like, I enjoyed it as I was reading it, but when I sit there and just think about it, I'm like, this is, you know, one of those things. So I made a boo-boo. I was actually kind of describing the end more than I was this one, but regardless, kind of is what it is. I wanted to talk with this with like spoilers, but not ruin anything. Like, I could say the killer's name and I could do this and that, but I felt like I want to say enough to maybe get somebody to go, that might be interesting in reading, without just spoiling everything, because this is a rather short story. 7 issues is really not a lot. The last one, and even this one, kind of felt more detective based than the other ones. I think them going through who each person could have done it and why they didn't, it just felt really stretched out, like they were just trying to fill pages. The artwork in this one is good. It's interesting. I think it's a fun story. But when you think about like the logistics of the story, like I said, it runs thin. It's kind of weird. I'm not saying this would be like my favorite graphic novel if I read this in full form, or my favorite story, but I do think it's fun, and if you can get it at a reasonable price, you should. If you love Wonder Girl, I think you'll like this, even though I haven't read it myself. As I said, the way they do everything with their particular nation and their characters definitely seem to flesh out a lot more. Nubia handles everything very well, so if you're like me and you love her, I think this is a good thing for you to read. Diana is kind of like Diana. There is some backstory. She does better with the emotional stuff, so I think there's a little bit for everybody, and I think this is a good like fluff thing if you are in between reads and you just want to read, or you just like this universe. Like the Nubia one, this adds so much lore, so much stuff in it that like if you just love the world of Wonder Woman, Amazons, and Mascara, this is worth reading. I just don't know if it's the best story. Like, you know. So yeah, I know this video is all over the place. It kind of, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways, and I will read the other Nubia. Yeah, I plan on doing that. So hopefully I get into Wonder Girl as well, because I am definitely more intrigued. So guys, I will see you later. Bye.